There is a pattern I see in my clinic that never stops surprising me. Someone sits down, and before I even open their file, I already know roughly what they are going to say. They have been walking 30 minutes a day, sometimes more, consistently for months. They followed the advice. They did what they were told. And yet they are sitting across from me with joint pain that is getting worse, not better. Fatigue that lingers for hours after a walk. A heaviness in their legs that was not there a year ago. The first question I ask is never about duration or frequency. It is always about mechanics. Tell me exactly how you walk. That is when the real picture emerges. Because in the vast majority of these cases, the problem is not insufficient walking. The problem is incorrect walking. And those two things produce very different outcomes. Insufficient walking simply fails to deliver benefit. Exhales. Incorrect walking delivers a new injury on top of the problem you were trying to solve. After 15 years working with patients over 50, I have identified the same 7 mistakes appearing again and again, not occasionally, constantly, across different fitness levels, different body types, different health histories. These mistakes are nearly universal, and they are nearly universally unaddressed because nobody in a standard clinical appointment has time to explain them. That changes today. Subscribe and hit like right now. What you are about to hear, no one is going to tell you at your next appointment. The system profits when you stay sick, not when you get well. Help this channel reach 100,000 subscribers. Every single one counts. Let us start where every conversation about walking after 50 should start, with what is actually happening inside your body. Why walking after 50 is different. After 50, your body is undergoing a set of changes that are predictable, measurable, and directly relevant to how you should be moving. These are not signs of decline. They are signals that your approach needs to evolve. The first change, muscle mass, is decreasing. The medical term is sarcopenia, the age-related loss of skeletal muscle tissue. After 50, the body loses approximately 1 to 2% of total muscle mass per year. Over a decade, that accumulates into a loss of 15 to 20%. Muscle is not simply the tissue that moves your limbs. It stabilizes your joints from within. It regulates blood glucose, the concentration of sugar in your bloodstream. It supports your posture and your balance. As it diminishes, every connected system begins to feel the effect. The second change, your joints are receiving less internal nutrition. Cartilage, the smooth, dense tissue that cushions the ends of your bones, has no direct blood supply. It is fed entirely through movement. When a joint is loaded and moved, synovial fluid, the lubricating liquid inside the joint cavity, is pressed into the cartilage and delivers the nutrients that keep it healthy and intact. Reduce movement or move incorrectly, and that delivery system fails. Cartilage thins. It loses its resilience. It begins to break down. That is osteoarthritis. And while some degree of it comes with age, how quickly it develops is substantially within your control. The third change, your metabolism is slowing. Basal metabolic rate, the number of calories your body burns at rest simply to maintain its functions, drops by roughly 2 to 3% every decade after 50. The lifestyle that kept you at a stable weight at 40 will produce gradual weight gain at 58. Not because of anything you did, because your physiology shifted. The fourth change, circulation to the extremities, is becoming less efficient. Arterial walls lose some elasticity over time. Cardiac output decreases slightly. Blood flow to the legs, feet, and peripheral vessels declines. This is why so many people over 50 experience cold feet, nighttime cramping, and that familiar heavy, swollen sensation in the lower legs by the end of the day. Here's the critical point. Walking, correctly executed walking, addresses all 4 of these processes simultaneously. It activates muscle and counteracts sarcopenia. It generates the joint loading that feeds cartilage. It elevates metabolic rate. It improves peripheral circulation. The research is extensive and consistent. Regular walkers have measurably lower rates of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, and cognitive decline. But that benefit is not automatic. It is conditional on how you walk. Walk incorrectly, and you do not receive a reduced benefit. You accumulate damage. Let us go through every major mistake. Mistake number 1, you start your walk too fast. This is the single most common error I observe, and it appears across every age group and fitness level. People step outside and immediately move at their full intended pace. The reasoning seems sound. Why spend time going slowly when you could simply start exercising? Because your body requires a transition period that cannot be bypassed without consequence. When you start too fast, 3 things happen at once. First, your muscle fibers are still cold. Cold muscle is less elastic than warm muscle. Reduced elasticity means increased vulnerability to micro tears, tiny, invisible injuries in the tissue that produce no immediate sensation, but accumulate over weeks and months into persistent, low-grade pain that people mistake for age or arthritis. Second, your joints are not yet lubricated. Synovial fluid pools in certain regions of the joint cavity during rest. To spread into a protective film across the entire cartilage surface, it needs gradual, slow movement over several minutes. Begin at full pace, and you are loading cartilage that has not yet been prepared. Every step in that early phase is more abrasive than it needs to be. Third, your cardiovascular system has not adjusted. A sharp, sudden increase in demand causes heart rate and blood pressure to spike more steeply than a gradual ramp-up would. After 50, when arterial elasticity is already reduced, those abrupt pressure increases represent unnecessary mechanical stress on vessel walls. The solution costs you nothing in terms of time. Walk the first 3 to 5 minutes at a deliberately slow pace, slower than feels productive. That is your preparation phase, and it is not optional. After 5 minutes, your joints are cushioned, your muscles are pliable, and your cardiovascular system has found its working rhythm. Now increase your pace. Mistake number 2, wrong posture. While walking, watch people walk almost anywhere, and you will see the same picture. Head pulled forward in front of the body, shoulders curved inward and downward, eyes tracking the pavement a few feet ahead. It looks natural because it is so common. It is not natural. It is a mechanical error with consequences that run from the neck to the knees. The numbers behind this are worth knowing. An adult human head weighs approximately 11 pounds. When it rests directly above the cervical spine in its neutral position, the neck and upper back muscles carry exactly that load. Shift the head forward by just 1 to 1.5 inches, which is typical in people who walk looking down, and the effective load on the cervical spine nearly triples. At 2 inches of forward displacement, the load multiplies 4 to 5 times. That means instead of supporting 11 pounds, your neck muscles are now working against 45 to 55 pounds of continuous force. Walk that way for 30 minutes, and you are not just exercising. You are generating sustained cumulative strain through the neck, upper back, and base of the skull. The neck ache people bring home from walks is not a sign of weakness or age. It is posture. The respiratory system takes a hit as well. When the chest is compressed and the shoulders are rounded forward, the diaphragm, the dome-shaped muscle beneath the lungs that drives breathing, cannot fully descend. The lungs cannot fully expand. Breathing becomes shallow, confined to the upper chest. Less oxygen reaches the muscles and the brain. A 30-minute walk at that oxygen level feels like an hour. People blame their fitness. The actual problem is their alignment. There is a third consequence that tends to go unnoticed. Poor walking posture disrupts the entire mechanical chain below the neck. The forward head position triggers a compensatory arch in the lower back. That arch tilts the pelvis forward. Pelvic tilt shifts the angle at which the hips and knees are loaded. Suddenly, the joints of the lower body are absorbing force along a path they were not designed for. Joint pain develops that has nothing to do with the joint itself and everything to do with one correctable error at the top of the chain. The correction is simple. Imagine a thread attached to the crown of your skull, pulling you gently upward, not forcing, not straining, simply allowing your spine to find its full, natural length. Shoulders drop and ease slightly back to their resting anatomical position. Eyes forward toward the horizon, chin parallel to the ground, chest open. In this alignment, breathing works at full capacity, the neck carries no excess load, and the joints below function along the mechanical paths they were designed for. Mistake number 3. The wrong shoe's footwear is the variable that receives the least attention. People will think carefully about their route, their pace, their duration, and then lace up whatever pair of shoes is closest to the door. For your joints, this is a costly oversight. 2 changes specific to aging make footwear selection critical after 50. The first, the fat pads on the soles of your feet thin with age. These pads serve as the body's built-in shock absorbers, reducing the force of the heel striking the ground with every step. As they diminish, that force no longer has a natural buffer. It travels upward through the ankle, the knee, the hip, and into the lumbar spine. Shoes must compensate for what the foot can no longer do on its own. If they do not, every step delivers a small cumulative impact to structures that were not designed for it. The second change, the muscles and connective tissue of the foot weaken. The arch begins to collapse inward, a condition known as acquired flat foot. Flat foot alters the load angle at the knee, shifts the mechanical axis of the hip, and increases compression in the lower spine. A shoe with genuine arch support can meaningfully slow that progression. What you need in a walking shoe: real cushioning in both the heel and the forefoot, firm enough to provide stability, compliant enough to absorb impact. Arch support that follows the actual geometry of your foot, not a flatliner. A flexible front sole that allows the foot to bend naturally at the ball with each step. A rigid forefoot sole prevents that motion and places excessive demand on the calf muscles and Achilles tendon. One more critical point: visible wear on the outer rubber of a shoe does not reflect the condition of the midsole, the cushioning layer between the rubber and the interior lining. Midsole materials compress and degrade with use, long before the shoe looks worn. If you walk regularly, the midsole of a 1-year-old shoe has likely lost a significant portion of its shock-absorbing capacity. Replace your walking shoes approximately once a year. That is not a marketing recommendation. It is joint protection. Mistake number 4, you walk rarely but for long distances. When you do, this is one of the most common patterns I see in patients who genuinely want to be active but have demanding schedules. The week passes without walking. Then the weekend comes and they take a long walk. An hour, sometimes more. They feel they have met their obligation to their health. Physiologically, they have not. The body adapts to what it encounters repeatedly. That is the foundational principle of all physical conditioning. Each time you walk, your body registers a signal. Sustained physical activity is an expected part of this life. In response to that repeated signal, the heart gradually becomes more efficient, blood vessels adapt, muscle tissue strengthens, and metabolic rate remains elevated for longer periods. This is training adaptation, and it only occurs through repeated, consistent exposure. 1 walk per week does not qualify as repetition. The signal is too infrequent to generate stable adaptation. The cardiovascular benefit stays minimal. The metabolic effect dissipates quickly. The muscles do not strengthen in any meaningful sense. Beyond that, a single long walk taken after several days of complete rest is a stress event for unprepared tissue. Muscles that have been largely sedentary for 5 or 6 days are cold, tight, and deconditioned. They are asked to perform significant work without preparation. The resulting soreness and fatigue leads people to the wrong conclusion: that walking hurts them, that their joints cannot handle it. In most cases, the joints are fine. The loading pattern is not. The evidence-based recommendation is clear: 20 to 30 minutes of walking on most days of the week, 5 to 6 days, is the minimum effective dose for cardiovascular benefit. Not one long walk on Sunday, but but 5 shorter ones distributed across the week. Your body adapts to what repeats, and only to what repeats. If that frequency feels like too large a change to make immediately, begin with 3 days per week and 10 minutes each. After 2 weeks, add 5 minutes, then add a 4th day. Gradual progression is not a sign of insufficient effort. It is the mechanism by which sustainable adaptation occurs. Mistake number 5, your arms are motionless. Arms pinned to the sides, hands in pockets, arms crossed across the chest. These are the arm positions I most commonly observe, and none of them constitute correct walking mechanics. Walking is a whole-body movement. Its mechanics are built around a cross pattern that is hardwired into the nervous system. When the left leg moves forward, the right arm swings forward. When the right leg advances, the left arm swings. This is not stylistic. It is functional. The cross pattern distributes rotational forces symmetrically across the spine and reduces the lateral twisting load on the trunk with every step. When the arms are held still, the lower back must absorb the asymmetrical rotational forces that the arms would otherwise counterbalance. For patients who already experience lumbar discomfort, this is frequently the mechanism that triggers pain on walks that should otherwise be entirely manageable. There is a second consequence worth naming. Arm swing activates the muscles of the shoulders, chest, and upper back. A walk with proper arm movement engages considerably more total muscle mass than a walk with static arms. More active muscle means higher caloric expenditure, greater cardiovascular stimulus, and better systemic circulation. From the same route, the same time, the same effort level. Third, arm movement establishes rhythm and contributes to balance. After 50, coordination and proprioception, the body's internal sense of its own position and movement, begin to decline gradually. A steady, rhythmic arm swing helps maintain consistent stride length and provides a stabilizing counterbalance during each step. It is a small but genuine contributor to fall prevention. The correction is straightforward. Bend the elbows to approximately 90 degrees and allow the arms to swing forward and back in natural rhythm opposite to the legs. No exaggerated pumping. Simply stop restricting the movement that your body is already inclined to make. Within a few minutes, it becomes automatic, and the walk feels more efficient almost immediately. Mistake number 6, walking with your phone in your hand. This mistake did not exist 20 years ago. Today, it is among the most prevalent behaviors I observe. People walk while reading messages, scrolling through content, and filming their surroundings, believing that movement alone constitutes exercise. The movement is happening. The full benefit is not. Begin with posture. A phone held in front of you or at waist level requires the head to angle downward. We have already established the physics of that position. The load on the cervical spine multiplies 3 to 5 times. Every minute spent with eyes on a screen during a walk is a minute of compounded mechanical strain on the neck and upper back. The headaches and stiffness people report after walks are often caused not by the walking itself, but by the device in their hand. Now consider balance and safety. After 50, the vestibular system, the inner ear structures responsible for spatial orientation and balance, operates with somewhat less precision than at younger ages. Proprioception also diminishes gradually. These are normal features of aging. Their practical effect is that the brain becomes increasingly reliant on visual input to maintain stable movement. When the eyes are fixed on a screen rather than the environment ahead, the brain is deprived of its primary source of spatial information. Uneven pavement goes unnoticed. Curbs, steps, wet surfaces, and sudden grade changes are not registered until it is too late. The likelihood of a fall increases substantially. A fall after 50 is not the same event it was at 30. It frequently means a fractured wrist, broken ribs, or a hip fracture. A hip fracture in someone over 60 typically means surgery, extended immobilization, and a rehabilitation period measured in months. The stakes of a preventable fall are high enough that this point deserves to be stated plainly. There is a final dimension that rarely gets mentioned. Walking is not only a cardiovascular exercise, it is a neurological one. When you walk while attending to the environment, your own movement, and the physical sensations of the activity, you are actively training attention, spatial awareness, and coordination. These are documented cognitive benefits of walking. When your brain is occupied with a screen, those benefits are not available. Your legs are moving, but your brain is somewhere else entirely. Phone in the pocket for the full duration of the walk. If you want audio, music, a podcast, a lecture, earbuds are fine. Keep the screen out of your hands. Mistake number 7, ignoring recovery after walking. No one discusses this. Not in clinics, not in standard health content, not in the general cultural conversation about walking as a health behavior. The assumption is that walking is gentle enough to require no recovery. That assumption is physiologically incorrect. Start with water. Muscle tissue is 70 to 75% water. Every biochemical process involved in muscle function, contraction, relaxation, and repair following exertion takes place in that aqueous environment. A reduction of just 1 to 2% in the body's total fluid volume is sufficient to measurably reduce muscle elasticity, slow recovery, and increase the likelihood of cramping. After a walk, drink a glass of water. This is not advice from a supplement company. It is basic physiology. Now, stretching. During walking, the muscles are working in a sustained shortening mode, repeated contractions across the entire duration of the walk. Without stretching afterward, they remain in a slightly shortened state when you stop. Over time, that shortening accumulates. The calves, the hamstrings, and the muscles of the lower back become progressively tighter. Range of motion decreases. The morning stiffness that many people attribute to arthritis is frequently muscular tightness that 5 minutes of targeted post-walk stretching would prevent. The protocol does not need to be elaborate. 5 minutes focused on the calves, the back of the thighs, and the lower back. Every time. Before you sit down and the muscles cool completely. Finally, rest days. The reasoning that more walking always produces more benefit is incorrect. Physiological adaptation does not occur during exercise. It occurs during recovery, when muscle fibers rebuild themselves stronger, when the cardiovascular system restructures in response to the demands placed on it, when joints remodel in response to load. Without adequate recovery time, that adaptation cannot take place. 1 to 2 rest days per week is not a compromise. It is the correct structure. Think of each walk not as a standalone event, but as one component of a system. Movement, hydration, stretching, and rest. The full benefit of walking is only available when all 4 components are present. A word about age and margin for error. Every one of these 7 mistakes carries a different weight depending on your age, and I want to be direct about that. The same error that produced no symptoms at 35 will generate measurable damage at 58, not because the body has become fragile, because the margin for error in joints, blood vessels, and connective tissue narrows with age. The tissue is still capable, but it is less forgiving of repeated mechanical insults. This is not a reason for alarm. It is a reason for precision. The adjustments I have described require no additional time, no equipment, and no special preparation. They require a conscious choice to walk in a way that matches the actual biology of the body you are living in right now. How old are you? Write it in the comments. I want to understand which age group this content is reaching so I can continue developing material that is relevant to where you actually are. Your action plan. Here is exactly what to do after watching this. 1. Adopt the slow start rule. First 3 to 5 minutes of every walk, slow pace only. No exceptions. 0 additional time required. 2. Fix your posture before you take your first step. Spine long, head gently lifted, shoulders eased back, eyes on the horizon. Memorize that alignment and reproduce it every time you walk out the door. 3. Look at your shoes today. If the soles show uneven wear or if you have been walking in them for more than a year, replace them. This is among the simplest and highest return investments available for your joint health. 4. Stop the single long weekend walk. Aim for 5 to 6 shorter walks of 20 to 30 minutes each. If that is too large a change right now, start with 3 days a week and build from there. One additional day every 2 weeks is a sustainable progression. 5. Let your arms move. Elbows at roughly 90 degrees, swinging in natural rhythm opposite to your legs. Take your hands out of your pockets and let the movement happen. 6. Phone goes in your pocket for the entire walk. Audio through earbuds is fine. The screen stays dark. 7. After every walk, 1 glass of water and 5 minutes of stretching. 5 minutes is the difference between muscles that recover and muscles that accumulate tightness month after month. Walking is among the most accessible, most researched, and most effective health interventions available to people over 50. No gym required, no equipment, no complex program, just movement. Done with the awareness and the precision that your body actually needs at this stage of life. Small, consistent corrections in how you walk will produce real changes in your cardiovascular health, your joint function, your metabolism, your cognitive performance, and your overall quality of life. The body responds to what it receives consistently. Give it the right inputs, applied correctly, and it will respond. No standard clinical appointment is going to walk you through this. That is simply not how that system is structured. It is built around treating conditions, not preventing them. This channel exists precisely to fill that gap. Subscribe, leave a like on this video, and help us reach 100,000 subscribers, one informed, healthy person at a time.